And Prabhupada, he was sitting like this, and like that, and he opened his eyes. He looked at me and he said, "Aap dant theek se saaf kyun nahi karte? Why you're not cleaning your teeth properly?" So I said, "Infection." So he said, "Infection." Then he turned around, took the bead from Gopal Krishna ji, gave it to me, chant 16 rounds. It was like, infection is the observation and chant 16 rounds is his prescription. And then he said, "Your name is Atma Tattva Das." They banged the mridanga, Hari Bol, and I came and sat down. I was not there. I was thinking, something has happened to me. I got initiated. I have a bead and I have my guru, and I was completely emotional. So that evening, right in the lawn in front of the temple, Prabhupada is giving evening darshan. So I took the chamara, went to fan him so that I can be close. So I most probably maybe I was doing a big number on the chamara, those one of those, So and it's Radhashtami, it's cold. So he was feeling cold. So he looked at me like that. So then I became so slow that the flies were sitting on his face. And again he looked at me like that while he was singing Radha Madhava, and I was so scared. So I didn't know whether to go fast or to go slow, but still I didn't want to give up that because I wanted to be there looking at him. So he sings Radha Madhava and then he does Jayam prayers, and then thank you very much, and then he looks at me like this and said, "Material life is an infection." And there was like, some big bulldozer on my head. And then he puts his hand out, he lifts his shirt like this, and he said, "You scratch, then you feel satisfied." Then he put his hand out again, "You scratch more, you feel some satisfaction. You scratch more, then you stop. Not because you are satisfied, but blood comes." The rest of it I didn't hear. This line I just remember. And I was there just moving like a machine, but I was going through my whole life and I was seeing that this person has gone into me and taken an X-ray report and given to me, "Yeah, that's what you are." Blood came. And that was very moving for me, that he taught me exactly. And I have heard many disciples saying the same thing. He was seeing through me and he said to me, and I have heard that before. And I was thinking that I had faith. I knew that happens, but when it happens to you, it's totally different because it's happened to you. It's not somebody else. So I was completely like somebody went through me inside with a ray and came out. And I was very happy.
We were in Prabhupada's room once, in the early 70s. I was sannyasi, so maybe 73, 74. And it was a beautiful afternoon. The sun was setting and golden rays were shining on Prabhupada. It was very sublime. A nice breeze was blowing. It was a very beautiful atmosphere. And Prabhupada took us back to old India, the turn of the century, and when he was a child, when he was a young householder, and he took us there actually, and he began to talk about how people used to work and relationships between householders and their servants, and how people used to cook and things. So there we were back in India with Prabhupada. And then he took us back farther to his early childhood, when he was playing with not playing, but having the Rath Yatra and worshipping Radha Govinda. And then only Karandar and I were in the room. The Prabhupada looked at us very strongly and said, "Whatever I'm doing now, I was doing then. Do you understand?" And of course we were at that point kind of speechless. And then Prabhupada said, "Never was there a time when I did not know Krishna. Do you understand?" And he said it in such a way that it was clearly the case. So that was a very powerful experience.
whenever Prabhupada talked about anything, somehow or another he could link it to Krishna consciousness and derive some kind of spiritual point from it. For instance, when we were in India, he would sometimes talk about the British rule in India and how they managed things. But he would always use that as a practical example for us, how we should manage things. Sometimes he would talk about, recent Indian history, but he would do it in such a way that he would point out how a person was either acting, in a genuinely spiritual way, or whether it was just a mundane thing. He would relate it to, say the degradation of Indian culture and why the Vedic culture was disappearing, whatever. But Prabhupada had this unique ability to see Krishna in everything and to explain things in such a way that we could also see it. He was always teaching, and Prabhupada was very conscious of the fact that he was always teaching us at every moment. He had, there was no private life for Srila Prabhupada. His life was the life of an acharya, so it meant that he was, in the spotlight, so to speak, at every moment of every day. And he was remarkably consistent. That was another feature also that I appreciated, was that Prabhupada's absolute regularity in what he was doing always amazed me. We traveled all around the world, and he would keep the same schedule. He would do the same things day in, day out, and be completely steady and not disturbed at all. And he would be up in the middle of the night translating his books. He would go out for his morning walk. He would take his massages. He would have his meals at the same time, no matter what. It didn't matter where we were going. Now, I was suffering jet lag, as we traveled around. Prabhupada seemed completely impervious to it. It just didn't seem to affect him. He would just go right on. And as soon as we arrived in a new place, he would immediately be into his schedule, and that was it. He never showed any sign of, fatigue or disturbance at all.
One big businessman, he came, and he was saying, Swamiji, I have this factory here in Delhi, and I have that factory in Zonpur, and they gave a list of his things, and then he said, I have all this, but I can't sleep. So Prabhupada looks at him and he says, that is why you can't sleep. You give all this to me, then you can peacefully sleep. So then he turns to somebody who was sitting there, and he said, I think it was Gopal Krishnaji. He said, take his address. So this man says, no, Swamiji, I can come anytime. You can come anytime, but we should also be able to come anytime. Take his address. And then he was ready, so yes, and said, no, Swamiji. Prabhupada said, no, take his address. We will relieve you of your problem. You give some of these things to Krishna, then you will be peaceful. And he was like smashed right there. And he did give his address. He had to.
We brought Miss Mexico to see Prabhupada. In those days we were young and we thought any celebrity, let's bring them to Prabhupada. So we brought Miss Mexico, and she came in. She was nice, fluttering her eyelashes. And obviously she, as all these, Miss America, Miss Mexico, they spend their year just going around and doing events and, getting their picture taken and smiling and saying a few nice words here and there. So she was more or less in that mood. She came with a few gentlemen. So as she sat in front of Prabhupada, she made her customary spiel. She said it was very nice being in Mexico. In Spanish, I was translating. She said, I'm very glad to be here. I've enjoyed the program very much, and I hope to come again sometime. So Prabhupada said to her, why do you want to come again? In other words, he was not at all concerned with the glamour of it all. He was very sober, and he said, why do you want to come again? And she couldn't really answer. No one ever asked questions like that to Miss Mexico. And he asked her very seriously, why do you want to come? Then we had Prabhupada's books on a shelf. He said, have you read my books? She said, no. He said, then why do you want to come? Why do you say you want to come again? So she was caught without an answer, and at that point she stopped being Miss Mexico and just started being a soul.
So there was one time, it was on the disappearance day, of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. We were in Bombay, and this lady came for darshan in the afternoon. So she was a follower of another guru, and this man was a well-known Mayavadi.